So a scientist called J.J. Thomson made what's called a cathode ray tube. And this consists of a glass tube that's partially evacuated. There's a little bit of gas in here, but not very much. And it's got a metal anode and a cathode, electrodes on each end, and then you connect it to a high voltage source. And you apply this high voltage source, and you see this beam, it kind of glows, this beam that goes from one end to the other, and that's called the cathode ray. Here's a photograph of a cathode ray tube in action, and you can see this is like this glowing line here. It's called a cathode ray because the ray travels from the cathode to the anode. So Thomson studied these rays and found that the particles had some interesting properties. The particles traveled in straight lines, and they were independent of the composition of the material from which they originated, the metal composing the cathode. You could make the cathode out of different metals, and the cathode rays would be the same. Didn't matter what the metal was. He also found that they carried a negative electrical charge. So we need a very basic understanding of electrical charge. Electrical charge is a fundamental property of some particles. It results in attractive and repulsive forces between those particles. Electrical charge is not the same as magnetism, and yet it behaves similarly, and I think we've all played with magnets, right? If nothing else, just, it's kind of fascinating how that magnet sticks to the refrigerator or the Brio trains, and you can get them to hook together one way, and the other way you can't get them to put together at all, right? Magnets are fascinating. They obey some of the same rules that electrical charge obeys. So with electrical charge, you can have positive or negative charges. These are like the north or south poles of magnets. Opposite charges attract. The north and south poles of magnets are attracted to each other. Like charges repel. Two positives push away. Two negatives push away. Just like two south poles or two north poles, maybe if the magnet isn't too strong and you are strong, you can push those together so they touch, but as soon as you release them, they're going to pop apart, right? Same thing happens with electrical charges. Electrical charges have magnitudes, and so if we take a positive charge and a negative charge of the same magnitude and put them together, they add up to 0, and the combination of them has no net electrical charge. Anybody have any questions about electrical charges? So these cathode ray particles had negative charges. So he was able to measure the charge to mass ratio of those particles. They were too small for him to measure their mass or their charge, but he could look at the ratio. So he deflected them using electric and magnetic fields and was able to figure out what the ratio was. The number he came up with is here. It's not something we have to remember, but it was minus 1.76 times 10 to the 8th coulombs per gram. Coulomb is a metric unit of charge. And he did that using something that looks like this. So he made a kind of a funny looking cathode ray tube. So here's the cathode, and now the tube is like a bulgy at the end, and he's got a magnetic field here and an electric field, and by changing those fields, he can cause this beam to move, and he could measure how much it was deflected. Now, if any of you guys are into Super Smash Brothers, you know that a CRT television is better than any sort of digital television for playing. Anybody know about that? My sons collect these things at garage sales because there's no lag, they say. It's so much better. Whatever. You know what CRT stands for? Cathode ray tube. This is the principle of the original television. So the original television worked like this. This would be the screen over here. and that's covered with a substance that will glow when it's hit by this beam. They use electric and magnetic fields to cause this beam to move back and forth, to raster across the surface, and it changes whether it's beaming or not beaming, and so you can form a picture on the cathode ray tube on the surface here. Originally it was black and white. You either had it was glowing or not glowing, and the resolution was how many individual little pixels there were that were glowing or not glowing. And you also then have refresh rates, which is how fast does it completely go across the screen in a second. Okay? So that might be interesting to some of you. Chemistry is in everything. So that ratio implied that the cathode ray particle was 2,000 times lighter than hydrogen, the lightest known atom. And this was mind-blowing because they had found a particle that was smaller than an atom. I thought the atom was the smallest particle. Apparently not. The indestructible atom could be chipped away. So you can chip electrons off of these guys. The electron is that particle. Thomson had discovered them. Electrons are negatively charged, extremely low mass particles that are present in all atoms. So it turns out that atoms are actually built of smaller pieces. In 1909, American physicist Robert Millikan performed his now famous oil drop experiment. And from this, he was able to deduce the charge of a single electron. And again, I'm not going to test you on this experiment, but I think it's a fascinating view into how we can learn about something that is too small to see. And that's what makes science just so intriguing, is a giant puzzle to be solved. So what did he do here? So over here he has an atomizer. So this is like one of those old-fashioned perfume bottles with a little bulb, and you squeeze it and perfume comes out, right? Very, very fine mist. And so here he's got oil in here, and he's creating this fine mist of oil droplets. Well, those are particles. They're actually large enough you can see them, especially with a microscope, and they will fall because they are subject to the law of gravity. So he's shooting these into a chamber here, and there's a floor, and this floor is obviously going to get very oily after you spray all this oil and it falls down. There's a hole in the floor. So most of those particles are just going to hit the floor, but some of them are going to hit the hole and go straight through. So those particles, those oil droplets, are going to fall through here. He's got a microscope here and a light source so he can watch these fall. Based on how fast they fall, their terminal velocity, he can calculate the mass of those individual particles. Some of them are heavier than others, but he can figure out their mass. Then he's got this ionizing radiation shooting in here, and what that causes is it causes electrons to stick to the particles. So an oil droplet might get 1 electron, it could get 2 electrons or 5 electrons. You know, you can't control how many electrons the droplet gets, but it's going to have some electrons on it. That gives the droplet a negative charge. So if we put an electric field where the negative plate is down here and the positive plate is up here, we apply the electric field, this negative plate will repel the oil droplet that has a negative charge. And you adjust it just right, and you can cause that oil droplet to stay suspended in space. If the field's too strong, it's going to float up towards the positive plate. If it's too weak, it'll still fall down. So that field is opposing gravity. So he knew the charge to mass ratio from Thomson's work. And so here, because he's able to calculate the mass of a particle by how fast it falls, he can use the ratio and the strength of that electric field to figure out the charge on the individual drop. Of course, the different drops had different charges because some of them got 1 electron and some got 2 electrons, etc. But he looked at the numbers he got and he found that all of those charges were multiples of the same number, and that must be the charge of an electron. So that's my explanation. Let's watch this video explanation.
In a series of experiments carried out between 1908 and 1917, R.A. Millikan succeeded in measuring the charge of the electron with great precision. In his experiment, a fine mist of oil was sprayed into the upper chamber with an atomizer. Some of the tiny oil droplets fell through the hole in the upper floor, and Millikan was able to determine the mass of an oil drop from its terminal velocity. Next, Millikan used an X-ray source to ionize gas molecules in the chamber. Electrons from this ionization process adhered to the oil droplets. The oil droplets now carry a negative charge. The negatively charged oil droplets can be halted by adjusting the voltage across the 2 plates. As the voltage across the plates is increased, the velocity of the oil drops slows. As the voltage is increased further, some drops will begin to move upward toward the positive plate. If the voltage is set just right, an oil drop can be suspended. When an oil drop is suspended, its weight, mass times acceleration due to gravity, is exactly counterbalanced by the electric force applied. The electric force applied equals the applied electric field, E, times the charge on the drop, Q. Since the mass of the oil drop, the acceleration due to gravity, and the applied electric field are known, Millikan could solve for Q, which is the charge on the drop. Millikan found that droplets had different charges, but each was a whole number multiple of a smaller charge, equal to negative 1.60 times 10 to the negative 19th coulombs. Millikan concluded that this was the fundamental unit of charge, the charge of an electron. From the charge of an electron and the charge-to-mass ratio of an electron determined by Thomson using a cathode ray tube, Millikan was able to calculate the mass of an electron. The mass of an electron, 9.10 times 10 to the negative 28th grams, is an exceedingly small mass.
That's an understatement. Exceedingly small. Okay. Now, that video had a lot of physics in it, a lot of equations and stuff that you may or may not have been interested in. I'm not going to test you on any of that, but just the idea that taking all these individual pieces and doing some math and figuring something out. The electron, well, let's back that up. So I showed you pictures from an STM of atoms, right? We got fuzzy pictures. The electron is 2,000 times smaller than those atoms. We can't get pictures of those, not at all. How can we get a mass of that particle then, right? Well, this is how, right? So he measured the strength of the electric field needed to halt the fall of the drops. He could figure out the masses of the drops from their radii density or from their terminal velocity. So he calculated the charge on each of those oil droplets. And then he found that it was always a whole number multiple of this number, which he deduced was the fundamental charge on a single electron. Well, that's a good question. Why are the charges different? Because some oil droplets would get 1 electron extra, and some would get 2 or 3 or 4. So the charge on the oil drop then would be 1 times this number, or 2 times that number, or 5 times that number, depending on how many electrons it had gotten. So from this fundamental charge and Thomson's ratio, then he was able to calculate the mass of an electron.